Here we go. Perfect.
Evening and welcome. It is Thursday, April 25th, 2019. I'm Troy Hicks, a professor in our doctoral program in educational technology at Central Michigan University. And tonight I'm really pleased to introduce three of our doctoral students, Tiffany Sutter, Megan Tolan, and Ashley Gable, who will be presenting from Drab to Fab, rethinking the use of video in today's classroom. And I hand it over to Megan to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Hicks. Get going here. So welcome to our webinar. We're really excited to have you join us today. I'm Megan Tolan, and I get to present with Tiffany and Ashley. Here we're cohort 5 DET members, and we're really excited that you're here to join us. We are going to get started by asking a few questions. If you could just answer them honestly, they're going to pop up here on your screen, and we will get started. So you should have seen a couple questions pop up. They're asking you some questions about how often you use video in your classroom. We really want to know a little bit about what you know so that we can really try to tailor this experience as best as possible. All right, looks like we're almost there here, and I'll share the results with you so you can see. Oops. All right. So it looks like as a whole, we're using video in our classrooms at least once a week, maybe once a month, but that's awesome. And our students are using video about once a month or even less than once a month. And good news is everyone is here and everyone's excited. So we're excited to learn and we're excited to have you. So in true teacher fashion, we have some goals for our day. We've organized some things that we hope that you can learn, right? So by the end of our time together, we want to have conversations around why implementing video in creative ways can be beneficial for student learning. We want to share two tools, Flipgrid and Edpuzzle. One is very student-centered and the other is more teacher-centered, but we're excited to have some conversations around those. And then finally, at the end, we're going to share some ideas on non-traditional use with these tools and brainstorm other things that we should consider, such as universal design for learning and accessibility. So to channel our inner Simon Sinek, we're going to start with our why. And I am going to share with you some statistics on video consumption. So if you had to guess what percentage of internet traffic we use as a society for video, I'm curious as to what you think, like on a scale of 1 to 100, how much video traffic do we use? And if you could just drop your guesses in the chat, that would be awesome. Hi. Tiffany and Ashley, I can't see the chat right now, so if you could help me out here and see what our goals are. What are we what are we guessing?
Well, Troy's at 50%, Melissa's at 80%. Nancy wants us to repeat the question.
Nancy, the question is, if you had to guess how much internet traffic is consumed by video, what would you guess?
%75% from Nancy.
Awesome. Well, you are all so close. 80% of internet traffic is consumed by video, right? And I don't know, I'm going to speak for myself here, but I am constantly watching videos, whether that's on like Instagram or just scrolling through social media. I'll YouTube things pretty regularly. So video is a huge part of our daily lives, and it's a huge part of our students' lives. In fact, there's an awesome YouTube video called Socialnomics, and I linked it on a doc that we'll drop in the chat really quick if it hasn't already gotten dropped in there. And it's by a guy named Eric Qualman, and he creates the video on the idea of social media and its impact on business and economics. But I feel like there's some really good points in the video about and things that we should consider as that impacts our classrooms, right? If that's what they're doing outside of school, then how does that impact inside the classroom? So when you have time, not right now, of course, you should watch that YouTube video. It's linked on our notes doc. So on top of the 80%, there's also people in general are 1,200 times more likely to share text or video than images, which for me is just really, really telling, right? My students will watch a quick 15-second video, but they won't read the paragraph. But I also can't blame them for that because I'm kind of the same way. I'll watch something really quick, but I don't always read the directions, which I know isn't always good, but it's real life. So if we know that video is powerful, and we know that our kids' outside school lives and our outside of school lives are impacted by video so much, of course we want to use that and leverage that power in our classrooms. But we want to do it in a really, really meaningful way. So 20 years, we'll say 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we get really excited, that cart rolls out, we got the VHS tape ready to go. All of us are pumped because we're going to watch a video in class, right? And now we're putting YouTube videos in one-to-one classrooms, and I don't know how much different it really is, right? So if we can have the kids watch a video synchronously on their own devices or we show it up on a monitor, still the same task. So we're gonna have conversations tonight on how do we change that? How do we think about it differently? How do we leverage the power of video to create meaningful learning experiences that promote deeper learning? And we're gonna frame this in one of three ways. The first is that we want to see students be producers rather than consumers, right? Again, 80% of the internet consumption is video. We're spending all this time watching video. We consume a ton of content a day, right? Their screen time hours, if you add them all up, are really, really high. I don't know the statistic off the top of my head, but we're constantly consuming information, and we would like to argue that we should flip that switch and have students be the creators. We want them producing, we want them problem solving, and we want them creating for authentic audiences. The second way we suggest doing that is by providing interactive video opportunities rather than just passive video. We want students to interact. We want to have them watch something and learn. We can drop in questions. We can ask them to problem solve, and we can even prompt them to think deeper about content that they're consuming right in the moment instead of having them watch a 10-minute video and then have that conversation afterwards. And the third idea is that we want students to be collaborative, right? We want them to collaborate with and through video. Excuse me, we know the idea that the internet has flattened the earth, hypothetically, right? It's not really flat. But we have access to people and places that were previously inconceivable. If students can connect and learn and grow with their peers right here in this community or across the world, or even professionals in their field, right, how powerful is that learning experience for them? It's kind of like the teacher can say it's good, but when we pull in someone else to say, hey, your work is really good, it's that third-party validation that we know really helps make learning meaningful for kids. So overall, these three characteristics, students as producers, students interacting with video content, and students collaborating with others, we try to really pull those ideas from the ISTE standards for both students and educators, as well as Liz Kolb's EEE framework. So we're going to just talk really quick about the standards that we chose to frame our webinar from. So when we're thinking about the tools in the classroom, we really were looking at 2 student-focused standards. The first one is 1C, Empowered Learner. And when implemented in a creative manner, we want the tools to allow students to demonstrate their learning in a variety of ways, right? Students might not be really great writers, but they still know their content and they can say that out loud. So how can we offer them those opportunities? We also want them to be able to seek feedback. And so using video tools allows students to get peer reviews, again, professional reviews, parent reviews, that third party that we wouldn't necessarily have access to. The second standard that we looked at was the idea of global communicators. Again, it can be synchronous or asynchronous, but we can use video to provide resources and access to students or removing barriers of time and space. And so, again, using this global collaborator standard as a way to frame our ideas. The third standard was the idea that teachers then can design more authentic learning activities with digital tools. So we chose standard 5, teachers as designers, because we know that even the best technology tool without being grounded in good pedagogy, it might not get us where we need to go. And the tools that we're going to look at, Flipgrid is again very more student-centered, and Edpuzzle is very teacher-centered. So we want the idea that teachers can build and design and create and prompt that interactive, active learning that asks students to think critically about content in the moment, and we're challenging teachers to do that. We're examining all the tools, so you'll hear us reference Liz Kolb's EEE framework a couple times throughout the webinar when we get to the tools and the content and the ideas. This learning framework we really like. It's designed to measure how effectively integration of technology happens in lessons, to evaluate tools. It was designed with K-12 educators in mind. And of course, there's the SAMR model and TPAC and other frameworks. What I love most about EEE is that it's written in language that's teacher-friendly. The SAMR model causes teachers to have to learn a new set of vocab and then think about applying that vocab to their lessons. When we use words like engage and enhance and extend, that's day-to-day teacher talk. So it's very easy for us to have conversations and ask critical questions of one another. So again, we're going to share our thoughts on how Edpuzzle and Flipgrid kind of through the lens of the EEE framework. And if you haven't ever seen this in detail, that link to the notes doc, if we could get that dropped in the chat, again, just to have, we've linked to Liz Kolb's EEE framework website. It is full of so much information. I really encourage you to check it out when you have time. But it allows us to ask questions, right? So does the technology motivate the students to get started? Does it extend the learning from outside of the school day? How are we implementing technology to ensure that what we're doing is more than just shiny and fun, and that's a silly YouTube video with a cat, but actually promoting engagement, enhancement, and extension? So that's our why. We're really excited to get into the how. If you have questions at all throughout this, go ahead and drop them in the chat and we'll try to monitor it. And I'm gonna hand it over to Tiffany.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about our first tool, which is Flipgrid. We have a quick poll question here that we just want to know your experience with Flipgrid thus far. If you've heard of it, not heard of it, use it.
All right. Awesome. So it looks like we've got some people who have used it and a couple people who have heard of it but haven't used it. Tiffany?
Okay. Well, you know, the nice thing about Flipgrid is it's available on all mobile platforms. So whether you have iPhone, Android, Microsoft, they even have a great, easy-to-use website so you can use your computer and a webcam. And actually, in a few minutes, we're going to ask you to participate in a quick grid video. So if you want to use your phone, you can head to your iTunes App Store or Google Play and work on getting the app while we're talking and working here. Otherwise, you can just use your browser like you're in Zoom. It will require a single sign-on with either your Google or your Microsoft account, but it is available to educators as well as kind of the general public, so you don't have to have a .edu email or anything like that to be able to sign up. So as we jump into Flipgrid here, you know, we know that students love their devices. They're spending a ton of time taking photos of themselves and their friends. They play games, they share videos. They're engaging in content with ways that as teachers, we really wish we could get them to do in our classroom with our content. And we really want them to meaningfully use technology. And Flipgrid's tagline is where social learning happens. It's meant to ignite the classroom discussion and allow educators to combine their educational content with this passion that students have for technology. The platform for Flipgrid is actually really innovative, super easy to use. Teachers create a grid, which is basically like your different classes. And then within that grid, they can create multiple topics or assignments. And then when students click on that topic, they can read the prompt. You can even post it as like a video prompt. So I don't have to give them the directions in text. I can create a little video that says, hey, this is what I want you to do. And then students can go through and respond. And then if it's enabled and set up, they can actually see what their classmates have said to that prompt and continue the conversation and the discussion through replies and doing that. Flipgrid has a lot of adjustable settings for teachers. The most important to me was that teachers can moderate the videos before other students can see them. Depending on the age of your kiddos, you might want to see what they're putting out there before it gets put out there. You don't have to moderate it. You can just simply make it available for all. But I think to me as a teacher, that was one of the most powerful pieces. You can set up who has access to your grids and your topics, so you can make sure, especially in a K-12 setting, that you're keeping minors private and you're keeping their information safe and amongst yourselves. And you can also set the parameters for your discussion. So you don't just create the prompt, you also create how long can their video be. You also create, can they even use stickers and emojis and fun things on this, or do you want it basic video? So you do have a lot of options. As we start moving into our main focuses here, the first one was making sure that students were producing video rather than simply consuming it. And inherently, Flipgrid's going to do that because that's what it does. They have to create their content to put it out there for others. They can respond to specific prompts. You could leave it a little more open. And so inherently, they're producing rather than consuming. Now, I will say that Flipgrid has a really cool Facebook group for Flipgrid educators to share really cool lesson plans and kind of collaborate with each other. And one thing that I saw mentioned by several teachers was that some students didn't like the idea of being on the video. They like the idea of creating it, but they don't want it to be of their face. And so, we can create some simple solutions, like students can show a setting of something rather than their own face while they still talk and narrate over the top of it. You could even give students like sticks or emojis or faces that they can kind of cover their own face but still talk. And so they're still creating that content and they're still making the video, but it might not matter, depending on your prompt, what's in front of the camera. What matters is that they're writing meaningful statements and they're engaging with your subject area content. It's really, really easy for students to create and produce. Basically, what they see is on the left here. Enter a flip code. The teachers give them the code. They drop it in. It takes them right in. They can use their personal account or a school-based G Suite account. So it makes it really, really easy for them to quickly get in and get to the content. They're not going to be bogged down with finding how to log in and how to set up. Once they do log in, they are taken directly to the prompt where they can record their own response. Flipgrid allows them to add titles, emojis, stickers. They can have a little fun with it, and then it shows them the classmate videos that they can respond to. One of the cool things about Flipgrid is you could actually do it within a class setting, giving students private time out in the hall or in private locations to respond to things. You could do it as homework outside of the class setting, and you could encourage discussion or how-tos. There's lots of different ways to use this, and we'll get to those in just a second. Our second main thing was making sure that students were interacting with video rather than just always passively watching. And obviously, if they're producing the video, they're interacting with the tool and with the content. But when they get to the point where they're just, and I don't want to say just, but while they're listening and watching other students' videos, they do have to engage in some respect and actively listen so that they can then build on the conversation and offer suggestions or critiques. It's not like a normal presentation where someone stands up, says their piece, everyone claps, and they move on. Now they actually have to respond. And so it's much more active listening. It's not just the sit and get. And they have to be able to reply, which to me changes this video from this one-way communication, like Megan mentioned, rolling in the CRT cart, popping in the VHS tape, and now it's this two-way dialogue that is so much more crucial for your understanding and your student engagement. Our third point is that students need to collaborate with others through video. It's not an isolated thing. We know how many kids enjoy watching YouTube tutorials and leaving comments and feedback for people out there. And Flipgrid lets them kind of do the same thing in a more educational platform where they can collaborate and work together. And this is really where it starts tying well to our ISTE standards. They can seek feedback. So it's not just enough to demonstrate what they know. they can have classmates that actually give them feedback or ask questions to help them improve their learning. They can use some of the global communicator strand of the ISTE standards by working with others in the community. And even cooler than that, Flipgrid has a hashtag called Grid Pals, where teachers can connect with other teachers around the world to hook their students up with other students around the world. So one of my best examples would be as a world language teacher. I would love to get students connected with those in Spain or Mexico so that they could introduce themselves in Spanish and actually get communication from native speakers of the language. So it's all about learning together. One thing we really liked about Flipgrid was it was very student focused, and in some respects it really helps your shy students who might not otherwise participate in a face-to-face discussion because they can record themselves without an audience. We know that sometimes those kids have the most to say and they just aren't given an outlet to say it. And so because Flipgrid gives them that opportunity, we're gonna get work and information and content from them that we wouldn't normally get in a classroom. The stickers, the emojis, those things meet students at a level they're actually really excited about and encourages them to kind of play and interact with the tool. And because of that, they then have to interact with their classmates. The tool doesn't let them just take cool photos and put stickers on it. It has to be connected to a video. It has to be connected to a purpose. One other thing that I really like is that students can pause their recordings, they can redo, they can stop, they can trim, and so they can really make sure they put their best response possible forward. And it's one of those things that sometimes when you're in a discussion, you're really processing what others are saying. You have a really good point you'd like to make in your head, but by the time you formulate what you want to say, the discussion has moved on, and now you feel silly going back, and so you just don't. And so the beauty of Flipgrid is using that technology, we can harness that ability for students to really process and think about what they want to say, and they're less on the spot. From our teacher perspective, obviously, Flipgrid is fun, it's easy, and it could actually bring some students into the conversation that might not otherwise be there. One thing I do want to caution about is with any tool, moderation and balance are key. Like Flipgrid's fun, but you probably wouldn't want to do one every single week, or by week 5 or 6, the kids are going to be done with it. Finding new tools, finding new ways to get them involved, making sure that you're balancing and moderating how you're using it within the classroom is also important. So we know that Flipgrid does discussion really well. You throw out a prompt, you want students to answer, and then they have to reply to classmates. But we can actually make it more than that by creating really good lessons around the tool. And one thing that I had thought of was, for example, my ELA students who are writing a paper. Maybe there's a paragraph in their paper they just don't love. They feel like it's missing something. They can't figure out what it is. They don't know how to revise it. So they jump on Flipgrid, they post a video of themselves reading that paragraph, and they solicit feedback from their classmates who could then say, oh, this part was kind of confusing. Maybe you could clarify there. Or, you know, I could really use some information about this. Can you expand on that content? And then it's still discussion, but they're getting very specific feedback. Another way I thought about it for almost any subject area is if you're ever doing an in-class presentation, you could use Flipgrid as a way for them to practice with an audience that isn't live. So they get to record their presentation and put it out there for others to see, and they can solicit that feedback and hopefully make some suggestions for improvement before they do it in class for you when it's a little bit more live and on the spot. You could have students use this tool in conjunction with something they're reading for homework. Maybe you throw out some questions about the basic comprehension of what the reading says, so they make sure they understand what it is. And then when they come to class the next day, you can spend your time getting into a nice deep conversation about global connections and metaphors and whatever's in that text, instead of spending half of your class time just trying to explain to students that, remember, the point of view shifts here, and they're like, oh yeah, I got lost with that part. So, you know, that basic stuff can be done asynchronously with Flipgrid, and you can save the really good, juicy stuff for in class when you want to hear it and experience it with your students. So tying back to Liz Kolb and the Triple E framework, You know, we know that this is going to motivate students. It's going to make them active learners. It's going to give them a voice for showcasing their learning. And so because of that, Flipgrid scores really well overall. Going beyond that, students get to communicate with their peers, their mentors, other people outside the classroom. It helps to build some of those soft skills of communication and, you know, giving critiques. It also can help them build strong connections between their own lives and the experiences of others, depending on the prompt they're given. And so on Liz Kolb's rubric, it really is not only a good basic engagement tool, but it really is an awesome extension tool because it will take it outside of the classroom. It's something they can put on their phones and engage with at other times outside of your four walls. Okay, so I warned you that you were going to get to do one, and here is your chance to try it. So dropping into the chat here is our bit.ly with the DET Flip. If you click on that link, it'll open a tab for you and take you to Flipgrid. You remember, we'll have to do your single sign-on. And there's a prompt in there all about ice cream. And you have just a few minutes. I think I limited it to 90 seconds to talk to us about your response. You can watch other videos and reply. And as you're working, if you've got questions or issues, drop them into the chat or turn your mic on and ask them out loud, and I can help walk you through how to use this tool. And yes, Nancy, it is totally okay that you are on mobile. So Nancy, if you're on your mobile there, you'll want to go to your browser and do the bit.ly DET Flip. And I know you can't see my screen as you're working, but it does send me an email every time people respond and do things, so you can see as students are working on this. Oh, looks like Melissa's in. Love your selfie, Melissa. And Troy's in with his ice cream as well. Oh, and there's Nancy. So it looks like we're able to get those responses in. Again, you can watch some of the other videos, reply. That's the beauty of the platform, is it's asynchronous video-based discussion. And if we kind of think back to our goals of what we wanted to do, we wanted to identify our basic features and some simple classroom uses. And hopefully you've got a better feel for what Flipgrid will do. And I'm going to turn it on over to Miss Ashley. And she's going to talk to you about Edpuzzle and all the cool things that tool will do.
All right, everyone, switching over to our second tool here, which is Edpuzzle, an online tool to create and edit interactive videos. We have one more poll question here so you can get an idea of how familiar you are with Edpuzzle. Yeah. We have an activity through Edpuzzle later, but because Edpuzzle has settings for public availability, you won't have to log in or download anything for this one. Good news. Right, cool. A lot of first-time users. Okay, so videos can be uploaded to the site for editing, or a user can choose an existing video to edit from Edpuzzle's massive video database. Specific videos are difficult to find, but can generally be sorted through in 3 ways: by curriculum level, by institution, and through popular channels. Curriculum is split into elementary, middle, and high school levels. They do not have any sort of higher ed on here, so that's what you were looking for. You're going to have to find your own way probably to adapt Edpuzzle to it. Content can also be sorted by institution, like the name or the name of the school or the district that you're in. Institutions available to you are determined when you sign up and must be provided in order for you to gain access to your school's content. The popular channel search option includes videos from Edpuzzle, YouTube, Khan Academy, TED Talks, and a few other popular video platforms. This is the most complex way to sort through video content. You can never really be sure what subjects are going to show up on what channels. Any videos that you find appealing can quickly be saved to the My Content section so that you don't have to search through everything again. The editing process is where the meat of Edpuzzle takes place. Unlike other interactive video editors, which include a multitude
Frozen. Oh.
Uh-oh, there she goes. Okay, new plan. I will share my screen in just 1 second here.
I got you. We're okay. We're okay. We're okay.
Yay.
There you are.
I have no idea what happened. I just couldn't hear anything, and then my stuff went black. So I'm so sorry, everybody.
All right, we're on the next slide now. Perfect. All right, picking up where we left off. So this is a snapshot of Edpuzzle's easy to navigate. And Megan, if you could hit the little play button in the middle of the slide there. Oop. Or maybe it won't let you. All right, well, that was a really cool GIF that I made. And I want you all to know that I learned to make GIFs just for this presentation, for this specific GIF right here. So I am very sad it won't play, but it shows you all of the different snapshots of the editor screens in Edpuzzle. So this one that is up right now is the first function, cropping. It allows the user to crop from the beginning and end of the video to create a shorter presentation. However, cutting out portions in the middle of the video is not an option. So if there's a bunch of extra stuff in the middle, you're going to have to crop that out before you bring it into the Edpuzzle website. The next video editing option is voiceover, where the user can add their own voice over an existing video. Again, though, there are limitations with this because the voiceover has to cover the entire video. You can't just cover specific portions. If you want to do that, you would use the third editing function, which is audio notes. It inserts voice comments into the video and pauses the video content for your audio note. The final feature is quizzes, where open-ended or multiple choice questions can be posted to students. The answers from each student will be saved in the class page for the instructor to easily access and grade. Okay, so this is kind of what you'll see when you're searching for videos in Edpuzzle. So it's important to know what you're looking at when you see this. So the first little icon there is playtime. May fluctuate, particularly if the video has already been edited in Edpuzzle, so there can be several versions of a single video living in the Edpuzzle database. The next indicator, number of questions, does not show the type of questions in the video, only the number that are present. The microphone icon indicates the presence of a voiceover throughout the video. The absence of that microphone symbol implies that the video still contains its original audio. Each video has 3 interactions available from here: edit, watch, and duplicate. So this is the instructor page for assignments. It contains stats for each student that make it quick and easy for instructors to know who has and hasn't completed the assignment. Also on this page is the start date and the due date, down to the very second that the video is assigned and the time the assignment closes. Instructors can also share, reset, and delete the assignment from this page. Student grades can be downloaded to be incorporated into a grade sheet or an LMS. Under the Questions tab of the instructor page, all of the questions asked in the video can be seen together. The questions or comments category is prominently displayed at the top of each question, as well as listing the point in the video where the question appears and how many students have answered this question correctly. So to our 3 standards that we set, Edpuzzle's simple video editing tools allows students to take video creation into their own hands. While much video editing software is very complex and difficult to learn, Edpuzzles includes only 4 main video functions, which allow students to create or edit existing videos to share with their peers. The interactive component of videos created through Edpuzzle is one of the main selling points of this technology. Videos can be created with pop-up tips, multiple choice questions, and quizzes following the video. These interactions require the learner to remain engaged throughout the video content. While no part of the video creating and editing process in Edpuzzle is inherently collaborative, certain group activities could definitely be conducted through the Edpuzzle to provide meaningful collaborative learning experiences. For example, students could create videos in small groups to be shared back with the rest of the class, demonstrating their collective knowledge of a specific topic. Why Edpuzzle? Edpuzzle is a great tool for teachers and learners because of its ease of access and basic methods of video editing. Unfortunately, the straightforward process used results in what's ultimately simplistic experience. It's great for first-time editors or for students learning about video creation, but it is lacking in variety for anyone with experience in video or interactive content creation. If teachers are struggling, Edpuzzle has a complete step-by-step guide to getting started as the very first tab on their Help Center page. It includes everything from a guide to getting your students started to troubleshooting and account settings. Even the tech illiterate could implement Edpuzzle with all the resources in the Help Center. Okay. The most straightforward use of Edpuzzle's technology is for an instructor to create an engaging educational video with questions and pop-ups that allow them to interact with the material. Other equally viable options, though, are for students to create individual videos that can be shared with class or used to assess what they have learned. Thanks to the voiceover function, teachers can provide students with all the visual material for a video and have each student use the voiceover function to explain the concept shown and add questions to the presentation. This would be particularly helpful if you were teaching a complex cycle or abstract idea, like the cycle of precipitation, where students could share their knowledge about each phase of the process and add audio notes and questions for their classmates to interact with. Edpuzzle can also be great for group work, especially if you don't want to spend the whole class having students do presentation after presentation after presentation. You can have each group of students pick a different event in a historical time period and record their presentations on that event. Video presentations can be recorded from anywhere and viewed anywhere. These are just a few ideas, but there are so many ways Edpuzzle can be successfully implemented in the classroom. Can you think of any ways to use this video software? Think on that a little bit, as this question might come around again soon. Edpuzzle encourages much higher levels of engagement from students than a standard video would, as it allows them to interact with the content both during and after it is being presented to them. Students don't necessarily need to be in a classroom environment to use Edpuzzle, as it can be accessed from anywhere with an internet connection. This opens the door for students to participate in learning outside of the typical school day. The building of video is becoming increasingly important as more and more content moves online. Learning to edit with video with this simple tool will give students the opportunity to learn skills they can not just use in the classroom, but in the real world too. Enhancement and extension of learning will occur if Edpuzzle is thoroughly evaluated and vetted to match with learning goals and teaching strategies before it's implemented. All right, now it's your turn to try it. So like I said, this link should be publicly available. We'll give you a few minutes to view the video and play around with it. Just make sure that you mute your microphone and your sound so that we can't all hear the video playing.
All right, hopefully you are all able to get a little Edpuzzle time in. If you have any questions or have any ideas or suggestions, you want to drop them in the chat. We'd love to share. Looking at our goals, we've talked about our why. We've done Flipgrid. We've talked about Edpuzzle. And so we're just going to take a few minutes, these last 15. I'm not going to talk too long because I really want to have some interaction with you all. But we want to brainstorm a couple things to think about, but then also how can we actually use these tools to create deeper levels of learning for our students. So EduCause is a higher education nonprofit organization that focuses on IT and higher ed. It's professors, teachers, IT professionals. And last year at their annual conference, they noted that universal design for learning and accessibility was the #2 issue for teaching and learning. And I was super excited to see this because I think this is something that we don't always take into consideration, specifically accessibility. For those of you who don't know universal design for learning, that's okay. It's just a framework that we look at. It's kind of designed to assist teachers in thinking about how do we help all kids learn. And technically there's 3 pillars, but when we think about using video in our classrooms, for me, I can really apply it into 2 categories. And then we'll hit on accessibility. So the first category is the idea that we should prevent multiple ways of representing content for kids. So when we're working with students, when we use video, we are giving them multiple ways to consume information. So they can read, they can watch a lecture, they can get the video again. So we're providing it for all different learning types, different learning styles, even students with learning disabilities. We are providing multiple ways for them to consume that content. When we put it back and we have students be producers, we're giving and we're providing multiple means of action and expression. So we're allowing students to express themselves and to show what they know in multiple formats, right? So again, we're hitting different learning styles, different modifications that need to be made for students with IEPs, and we're allowing them to show what they know in more than just that traditional test or that traditional paragraph of writing. So I just love the idea that video really aligns to multiple pieces of universal design for learning, and it's quick and easy, and teachers don't have to go and create massive new assignments. It just can be as simple as you could write, or you could do an audio recording, or you could do a video recording. Now we're hitting multiple learners. And the other piece that I would like to consider, and we just need to throw out there, is the idea of accessibility. Web accessibility guidelines say that whenever we're using video with students, we have to make sure that we're providing closed captions at a minimum, that we have closed captions. Better would be closed captions and a transcript. So when we're looking at these 2 tools, I really have to praise Flipgrid for its accessibility features. It will auto caption any of the videos your students put in, so we don't have to worry about that. All of our students can access that content, even students with audio impairments. In fact, it even has an immersive reader, which you can see a picture of on this screen, which is so cool. So even if I'm typing directions, Flipgrid's got this built in where the screen will read and then it provides visual cues. So it's helping all of our students, our English language learners, our students with disabilities, and just the average learner, because I know that I like to read closed captions when I'm watching videos. So again, if it's good for students with disabilities, or it's good for all of our learners. I can't say the same thing about Edpuzzle so much. So if you do have the option and you really do want to use Edpuzzle, I highly recommend finding videos that are already captioned and using those videos in your content, or creating your own captions, which is a little difficult, but there's some resources that we linked on our DET video notes doc, which again, we'll share in the chat if you don't have open, that you can use to help with the accessibility guidelines, because it's a lot of stuff that we could probably do a whole nother webinar on just that. All right, we want to brainstorm and share ideas. So if you haven't opened this Google Doc yet, this DET video notes doc, there's a bunch of questions here, and I'm gonna actually switch my screen share really quick so we can all see that. And if you could open that doc, I want to challenge you to share with us your thoughts. So here we go. So you should be able to see this document. Again, we've got all of our resources from earlier, but the pieces that we're looking at here are this brainstorm space. So if you want to talk Flipgrid, or you want to brainstorm Edpuzzle, or even just other video content questions, ideas you have, you can do that here at the bottom. Oh, look, some people are already jumping in. You guys are awesome. So what are some ideas and examples that you have? You can type them in, you can unmute yourself and share. Just love to see us kind of challenge ourselves to think about how we use tools. The name is dropping me and I should have it, but there's someone who is very smart that once said that the tool's warranty isn't void if we use it in a way other than its original intention. So I'm excited to see what our creative ideas are. All right, I'm gonna challenge you to share if you want to talk. If you don't, you can drop it in the chat. But take a second and let's look at what other people have said, or if you're still working, that's fine too. I'm not trying to rush you. But if there's anything that you see that you like or questions that you have, if there's any other ideas or video tools that you love that we didn't hit on, we'd love to share those too. So.
Is it okay to jump in for a moment?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so one of the things that I really appreciate in the opening conversation about Flipgrid is helping students be intentional about the conversation. Like after the novelty wears off of, oh, wow, you can post and you can put an emoji on there. And isn't that kind of fun? It's how do you get to the substance of the conversation? So 2 resources that I was thinking about to help foster that. These are not necessarily technological resources. These are just conversation starters or tools. So that first one in the primary examples is a kind of list of just prompts to give students. So you could even just in your Flipgrid, in your introduction to record, say, and when you respond to your partners, you might ask blah, 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 or thinking about accessibility, making sure you type those in that space in your grid so they can read them while they're responding, I think would be helpful. And then similarly with the link to the discussion protocols from National School Reform faculty, just again, thinking about how do we set up the grid itself, you know, with the limitations on time or with the limitations on how many people are in one particular grid, and then how that can be used in conjunction with the protocol to really structure that conversation in a productive way. So it's not just a free-for-all, it's actually focused conversation around particular ideas. So those are 2 things that I was thinking about, not necessarily tech tools, but more kind of pedagogical strategies that you would layer on using Flipgrid.
Thanks, Dr. Hicks.
So Megan, I will say as I'm reading through this doc here and these lovely people are putting in some awesome, awesome ideas. One thing I see with Edpuzzle that I love for like secondary is talking about reading a chapter of a book and being able to pause and put in like vocab in context or grammar in context. It's one of those things that it's so it's so hard to do that stuff in context, and to be able to read and stop and have a quick question like, okay, we just read this sentence. What does this word mean? You got to get this before you move on, would be very cool in Edpuzzle.
I do know that the science teacher in me is like, oh my gosh, that would be good, because sometimes there's so much vocab, right? So like, how do we break down some vocab and have some conversations, or try to make connections for them that they might not make on their own? I don't know who that was, but we'll applaud you. I know people are still kind of typing. We have a few minutes. Is there any questions or ideas, anything anyone needs from us?
I wondered if you might just speak for a moment again. I know that this idea of holding up your cell phone and recording for the Flipgrid is one most obvious way, but a little known feature I think you might have mentioned, but I think is worth mentioning again, is that you actually have the opportunity to upload videos, and they don't necessarily have to be of you just talking into your cell phone camera. So I don't know what you want to do with that, except to just say that out loud. And I think that oftentimes we look at the tool in the one way and think, oh, this is what it's designed to do. I'm going to hold my camera here and make a recording. But you could do that recording in any number of other ways and then upload it afterwards. So I just think that's important to know. Otherwise, people might get really, tunnel vision on, oh, I just have to record myself with a Flipgrid.
Right. There's actually 2 comments. There was Adobe Spark comment and H5P. You could definitely grab some of those content creation, video, and other things and put them in and ask for student feedback. So I do love that idea. And it's on our doc. So hooray.
Well, and I always do with my ELA kiddos, some of the books we read, they can create a comic strip of a scene, or they can create a diorama. And the cool thing about using Flipgrid is it doesn't have to be turned around on your face. You can show, this diorama and make like a narrative explanation of it, and kind of share it out there as a presentation, which is a different way of thinking about it. You're right. It's not just, back on yourself. And sometimes we get really self-conscious about what we look like on the phone, right? Like, oh, my hair doesn't look right today, or not wearing the right clothes to do this. And so by being able to flip that around, some of the kiddos that don't want to be on camera will still participate in the conversation and the prompt that's happening.
Yes. What's the rule? We record videos, we don't watch them, and we move on.
Nancy would like to know if Flipgrid is only video, or if you can use other things as well.
As far as the conversation goes, it's a video discussion platform. I know, Nancy, there was a suggestion in here about using Flipgrid with writing feedback. And I think that was meant as, like, again, I'm reading a piece of my writing in video form, and I want people to give me feedback on it, as opposed to here's like a piece of my writing that you can see and you can type back. It's really much more video production than just like a Google Doc sort of collaborative piece. Does that answer your question? There you go. Megan, do you have our last slide? Do you want to share it? if only because we're excited about it.
All right, so thank you so much. If you have any questions, we are happy to answer. Our contact information is in that doc, that DET Video Notes Google Doc that has all the links from our sources. It has how-to guides if you want to get started. It has, again, our contact information, all those ideas that we shared. You can take that and use it, right? Take it and go. And then when we're finished, we will put the link to this presentation in that doc as well. So you have this kind of like one size fits all resource to take with you.
Well, as we come to a close, I would just like to again thank Megan and Tiffany and Ashley for presenting the webinar tonight, and the resources will also be posted on our EdTech at CMU blog. So thanks to everyone who was able to join us live. And if you're following with the recording, of course, you'll have all that contact information so you can contact these doctoral students who have put together this great webinar. So thanks again, everyone.
Hi, thank you.